Welcome back, faction. We got a Charger here. It's a little out of the norm. We're not doing too much content on it recently, but on this cold, drizzly night, I wanted to go and reintroduce the black Charger. We've kind of taken a hiatus on this build. If you guys remember back to the first episode in this series, we were getting set up to do a super high horsepower build, and we still are, go for broke and figure out how we can make these things like, unbeatable, like M5 GTR kind of worthy for cheap, honestly, because these things are cheap. You got to get them off auction. That's the only way to get the all-wheel drive new gen Chargers with the V8 Hemi. And so if we look under here, you guys can see we got a 5.7 liter hemispherical V8 motor. And the best part is the drivetrain here is all set up to swap in a Hellcat, a 392, really anything Mopar related that will fit in this form factor, and then plenty of space for a blower. So what we're going to go ahead and do now in this second episode is introduce some of the mods, both internal and bolt-ons, as well as some of our aesthetic mods. First off, on that point, we're going to be fixing up this car. This car used to be a fleet vehicle. Regardless, all of these are going to be wide body, so we're going to be going over installation of wide body front and rear bumpers, wide body fenders, all of that stuff, as well as all new aesthetics, so spoilers, hoods, things like that. We've got a bunch of content. We've been working on this project in the background for probably about a year and a half now, working with a couple of different companies to develop parts for the drivetrain, and just kind of getting things set up amongst all the other projects that we have going on. Huge amount of parts that we've been kind of playing around with, and this is going to kind of be our example one. Anywhere like 1,300 horsepower to 2,000 horsepower all-wheel drive. Really kind of going to be crazy. We're going to probably end up caging that car, doing a bunch of stuff. But for a car this size and all-wheel drive, it's more than perfect for a street and strip kind of vehicle. But the big thing here, we're going to go ahead and start cleaning up this car. The interior needs a little bit of work. We're going to be installing all new interior from a Hellcat. We're going to be doing wide body, like I said, and down the line on this one, we're going to start playing around with the engine. But this Charger is definitely going to be that kind of stealth black look. It's almost like that Fast and Furious Honda scene, but with big fat Chargers. So that's kind of weird, but that's perhaps where we're going with this. We'll see how it ultimately turns out, but definitely for the next few episodes, we're going to be focusing on paint correction, adding some film, doing a lot of little things here or there to kind of get this car from its base kind of trim level that these all come with to more like Hellcat red eye kind of trim. All these cars are built very similarly despite the different trim levels, and it's pretty easy to mix and match parts. And so we've got some really sweet parts coming in for this one and our final build. Things like headlights, built transmissions, transfer cases, new drive shafts, new diffs, all that, new suspension, etc. We're going to be going in detail and yeah, kind of just going through how we would build this Charger to go from basically a cop car to a sweet all-wheel drive tire screeching machine that anybody can have for a really relatively low amount of money. Even as it stands right now, this thing's a beast. 400 horsepower, 400 foot-pounds of torque, weighs about 4,000 pounds, heavier than a lot of the other cars that we're looking at, but for as nice of a ride as these have and as capable as they are out of the box, this thing is quite amazing. So we're gonna get this thing cleaned up. We got a bunch of parts to start throwing on it, so let's go ahead and jump right into it right about now. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and start with the install of the tint for this charger that we're working on. The tint we're actually applying is a Lumar Formula One. Lumar is a pretty good brand that we've been using for a little bit now. This is a 20% tint, I believe. I've seen go darker, but legally this is the most we can in our current location. So we're kind of using a glass table to cut the pieces we need out here. For instance, we just started as a test piece for um, the side window, kind of almost a vent window that's fixed, and then the actual rear door glass turned out really pretty good. You can probably kind of see there compared to a non, so just a little bit darker. And this is a so the Formula One is a carbon ceramic tint, so it does have the ceramic kind of IR and heat resistant thermal properties in that film. Um, Very resistive to weather and heat cycles and aging. So excited to see how it finally ends up looking on this guy. But we've got it on these two windows. We're going to go ahead and move along to the other passenger and driver door windows. I'm not going to plan to do anything, I think, right now on the front windscreen, but then we'll be doing the large rear windscreen as well. We'll probably save that for last. See how everything goes right now, since we were already cleaning up the interior. As you can see, we've pretty much stripped everything out. We went ahead and pulled off the door panels as well. It just makes it a lot easier to be able to put tint on, because you can get all the way down. You don't have to worry about the tint getting creased or rolled or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and do the tint right now, get it out of the way. The back part will be probably the most complicated just because of the size. Once we're done there, we're going to probably clean up the interior, get the door panels on, and then at least right now, we're going to probably transition to the outside because we've got our bumpers in. So we'll take a look at that here in a second once we're done with the tint, and hopefully we can get the bumpers on and then the paint corrected so that we can put on basically another Lumar company's, but in this case it's SunTech, so SunTech Ultra PPF protection for the actual paint on this charger once it's been corrected. That being said, we can't put the PPF on until we figure out what we're going to do with the hole here and the hole on the front A-pillar. So we're kind of juggling a couple of things. But ultimately, that is the kind of plan to get done. But we're gonna go ahead and knock out the easy thing here, which is get the tint on, and yeah, let's go ahead and get to it. All right, guys, we got the interior all cleaned up, carpet cleaned, back package tray cleaned. We've got some applique carpet that we're going to go and throw in here in a little while that will actually end up covering this flooring. We wanted to make sure everything was nice. One of the issues that we had was the guy who had this before ended up breaking the side footwell carpet, so that kind of sucks, but at least our applique carpet kind of material will go over this and kind of cover up that damage. So anyway, we're going to keep cleaning and getting the rest of this stuff on. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and delve into a little bit more detail what we're going to be doing to this 2017 all-wheel drive V8 Charger. So we ended up picking this one up out of an auction. This one had light use. It was probably like a sergeant or an undercover vehicle. Luckily, didn't have too many holes in it. What we're going to go ahead and do is kind of start on the outside, get everything correct the way that should be, ultimately to transform this thing completely from its kind of stock civilian configuration into something much more reminiscent of a Red Eye or a Demon or a highly modified Charger. To kind of go down that route, this vehicle had some, a few scrapes and bumps and scratches everywhere. We're going to go and be taking those out. We're already doing a little bit of wet sanding. We're going to be continuing on with that, getting a few dents out, so we'll do a little bit of PDR. We got a few holes to fill. This is the factory spotlight hole. All of the police chargers come with that, so we'll probably be addressing that. And then we just have one hole that was an antenna hole that we'll be fixing up on the back. couple of different options there. So we'll kind of be going into detail about kind of the overall aesthetics of it. We've already taken off the front and rear bumper, as you guys can probably see. Very simple uninstall there. We got a couple of different options. There's the OEM wide body. There's some additional wide body stuff. To me, wide body definitely looks the best on these vehicles. And they're, unfortunately, the way they're set up on the suspension, they really need a bigger tire. And especially on the all-wheel drive models, it's tough to be able to get that. So with that wide body flare, we're able to stick in a much larger wheel and tire. And ultimately, that wheel and tire for these all-wheel drive cars has to be kind of matched. So we got a couple of different tools that we'll be using to gauge the proper offset with this new fender. That's something that's much harder to figure out versus just on a typical Hellcat or something like that that's rear-wheel drive. So we'll be delving in to wheels and tires at one of these episodes. Otherwise, we've got the front and rear bumpers. We got those. They're coming in, I think, tomorrow, actually. Wide body OEM setup. So we'll kind of be going through all the different configurations of a wide body here. Ultimately, a wide body requires two things: a fitment and cutting of the fenders and quarters, and then those wheels itself to be able to kind of capture and get everything correct. There's no rubbing or anything like that. Ultimately, we're going to be getting that stuff kind of finished out soon so that we can get the paint and everything after it's been cut fully polished. Once everything's polished and looking really, no orange peel, super clean, we're going to be throwing on some PPF or paint protection film. We've got some SunTech and some some SunTech Ultra, and then some 3M Scotchgard Pro on different places. A lot primarily focused on the front, but we're going to be doing doors, roof as well. All new hood, things like that. We're super excited to get into. Interior wise, this specific one, we're going to be like throwing the kitchen sink at it. We've got a bunch of premium interior parts from a Hellcat pulled out. So console, seats, door panels, all that stuff. We'll show you guys how to replace it for these models of cars. We'll probably even do some mods for like heated seats and so forth. New steering wheel, new carbon fiber dashes, and accessory pieces. These cars just basically you can modify whatever you want to. They've been so common now, but really taking this all-wheel drive car is what we've been wanting to do for a long time, to this extent that it's almost like a Demon or a Red Eye or one of these super high trims, but being able to capture that performance that an all-wheel drivetrain allows is the big key here. So again, we're kind of starting out with all the aesthetics, getting a wing on, getting some new parts, making it really look good. Getting the wheels on there, and then we're going to be delving hard into the powertrain. We've been working with a lot of companies to try and figure out how to modify and upgrade these powertrain components, so CV axles, drive shafts, obviously motor parts. That's fairly unanimous between both models of the car, rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. But there's some specifics to the all-wheel drive system that we've been engaged probably for about a year now with some folks on being able to upgrade and handle very high horsepower kind of applications. All-wheel drive, so that's the big takeaway here, is being able to modify one of these things to be able to put traction to the ground. Like I said, they can't get a super big wheel and tire setup on these vehicles to be able to get the traction, to get the power to the ground. You need that traction that all-wheel drive and big wheels and tires ultimately gives. So this thing is, very reminiscent of like a GTR or an M5 or, a Mercedes kind of representative vehicle. And that's kind of what we're capturing here, but with obviously a big American V8 and a supercharger. So anyway, that's kind of an overview of what we're doing here. So really this entire build series, we're going, all over, kind of modifying the car like anybody would generally start. So I think it'll be a good resource for folks who might want to pick this one up or just build another car in a similar fashion, just to see the level of detail that you can put in a car that most people wouldn't even bat an eye on when they're out in this, driving around or in a parking lot. And then going from that to something that's just like a head turner whenever you drive by or when you're at a car show or something. So that transformation is what I definitely want to try and capture during this build series. And I know in the first episode, we kind of laid out everything for our high horsepower build. We're going to be pulling a lot of that information in to this. But yeah, this is going to be, for at least the first couple of episodes, just kind of like a great understanding of how to fully modify a car, you know, aesthetics wise, interior wise, and then ultimately with the motor, powertrain, all that stuff. So yeah, I think I think I've probably covered everything I wanted to on this. Super excited. Stay tuned, guys, and get it cleaned up, get everything, you know, super polished and ready for its new life after service. So let's go ahead and do it.